there, welcome back. I'm going to talk to you about Hellboy the Crooked Man, which is the fourth Hellboy film since the start of the century. There wasn't any before that, but it was like, just pointing out, there's a character called Hellboy, and there's now been 4 films made in about 20 years. And some animated films. And this character only started, I think, in the early 90s. So it's become a fairly popular source for films. Now, not all these films have been good. The first 2 are terrific. Guillermo del Toro did them. He's a massive Hellboy fan. And Hellboy's this demon who fights for the American government against other monsters who are evil. And he's basically the Antichrist with horns, which are shaved off. And, you know, He's basically this grumpy working class guy who looks like a demon fighting other demons, and it works because there's a working class humour to him, and just this implacability to him facing off against these other monsters. So there was 2 Guillermo del Toro films that were very fantastical, very enjoyable, very Del Toro. And so the thing with them was they were the Del Toro version of Hellboy. It wasn't entirely faithful, but wasn't really unfaithful either, because Hellboy, Del Toro loved Hellboy, but he made him his versions of Hellboy. And there was hopefully going to be a final Hellboy film in Del Toro for a trilogy. That never happened. The second one didn't do as well as they hoped for. But it did well later, like on video and stuff, just like the first one did. So it was like when it was time for a third one, Del Toro had already moved on to he's about to do The Hobbit after Hellboy 2. It didn't work out. He did Pacific Rim and Crimson Peak, and then became an Oscar-winning director. And basically, they never got the third one made. So they decided to do a reboot, which was stupid, because it was like, the character's just been introduced. You can just have a new actor, a new director team, and do another Hellboy story. It would have been fine. I mean, but a lot of people were mad because they didn't get the third Hellboy film from Del Toro, because it was like, it's like seeing parts 1 and 2 and then not getting part 3 of a trilogy. It's annoying when you don't get the end. So people were sore about that. No one wanted this new film, and the new film wasn't good. I mean, we should be very clear with this. The Hellboy reboot was pretty bad in lots of ways. I mean, David Harbour's Hellboy was fine. His makeup was good in some areas and bad in other areas, but the script was not good. The story just felt like any time we went off what we'd done in the first 2 films was the better stuff, and then it would swing back to what we'd done in the first 2 films, and we'd do much worse versions of them. Then Ian McShane came in as the Professor Broom, who was Hellboy's father, or human father who brought him up, and that relationship in this film was different from the Del Toro version, and no one liked it, and there was just lots of stuff, and the ending was busy without being interesting, so there were some nice things there, but they weren't doing well. Neil Marshall directed it, and he was apparently very frustrated with the experience, and the audience was very frustrated. You just sense of there was lots of people with different ideas of what this film should be, and nothing never came together, and there was reports of arguments on set, and nobody liked this film. It was like, please forget this film. It's not, never speak of it again type of thing. It just came out and was just an instant disaster. Like, financially, critically, fans, everybody was just like, no, this is not what we wanted. Again, people are still sore the Del Toro thing. Then it was like, well, okay, this series is dead. But they brought Hellboy back in a lower budget film this year called The Crooked Man. Now, The Crooked Man it was written by Mike Mignola, who was the creator of Hellboy, and he wrote the script. It was rewritten by the director, Brian Taylor, but with cooperation with Mignola. So the director takes over, but it's still viewed as a very faithful adaptation. They brought in other Hellboy stories from characters from there as well to expand a little bit, so about basically the running time would be feature length. Because a lot of Hellboy stories probably run about 60 minutes. And then the trailer came in. The trailer was bloody awful. The trailer was like, oh my god, I'm not doing this. And what happened when you see the film is, the fact is, it's a low budget film, and there's not that much action in it. and they put in all the action from the trailers, and the action was the stuff with the weakest special effects because they'd run out of money or whatever. They didn't have the budget to do it, and it was like random bits from different scenes from beginning to the end, because a lot of this film is in the middle was not much action, and it made no sense. It made Hellboy look cheap as hell, and it just looked terrible. And then you see the film, and it's like, oh, that was not the film they promised in the trailer. This is a much better film, a classier film. So the good thing is, Hellboy Crooked Man is a return to form for the series. It's not as strong as number 1 and 2 for me, but I'd happily rewatch this one. It's got good characters, you know. It's not the most original film ever made for characters, but it's unique and it's good natured, and it's a horror story rather than an adventure story, and it works. Now, Brian Taylor was one of the directors of Crank. Him and Neville Dean did Crank and Crank 2 and Ghost Rider 2 and something else, can't remember that, The Gamer. Now, the Crank films are terrific. I have a soft spot for the Ghost Rider film, even though there's some problems. But after that, they split up, and Neville Dean did his stuff, and Taylor did a TV show. He did a film called Mum and Dad, which was Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair, which was really enjoyable, but with some of the parents trying to start killing their children all over the world. It's really funny, it's very underrated. And then he didn't do anything else until this. And again, that's another one where it's like, oh, this is good, that's another good film he's made. It's like, oh, this guy has talent. I would happily watch whatever he does next, because it's like, oh, he's done 2 films by himself, and they've both been good. So yeah, Hellboy, Crooked Man. I mean, the biggest criticism I've got is at the end it goes a bit fast. It's like almost like the studio saying, just go a bit faster now. But at the end, I mean, it might have been better just to pace it back a little bit and give some breathing room to a couple of the effects to land, so you know where you are rather than trying to disorient you. Because I feel that the final like 10 minutes, it's a bit busy, and I think certain things they set up didn't come across as well as it could have, because I think you knew the effects weren't going to be amazing because of the budget, but they were nicely done generally. But sometimes you get a sense of things moving too fast for you to take in, to see, oh, that connects to that, and there's a bit of that at the end, which is a shame. But that didn't take away from the fact it's still overall enjoyable film. So it takes place in the, I guess, 50s or early 60s. Hellboy and one of the people from the BPRD, which is the government agency he works for, are taking this giant spider back that they've caught on a train. The spider escapes, of course. The train thing they want crashes. The government guys with them gets eaten by the spider, and they have to now. The spider can change sizes, big or small, and it escapes down a drain. So they're now going to have to go through all the sewers and try and find this bloody spider. So, in the midst of this, but what they're going to do first is go and find a phone so they can call and say, this is a problem, we have to go deal with this. See if they can get help. Because in the middle of nowhere, Appalachia country, there's no phones. But what they do have is lots of superstitions. You have witches and things like that, and you have lots of beliefs and the supernatural, which is what Hellboy deals with. When Hellboy says he can sense this area, there's lots of supernatural activity, and there's some weird atmosphere to it he doesn't like. So they find a boy who's been affected by a witch, and this guy called Tom arrives, and he says, do this and this, and the boy will be fine. And he knows which witch it was that did it. He's going to go and deal with it. So Hellboy and his partner Joe, they're like, what's going on? And so they decide to follow Tom to the witch just to investigate, because Joe's interested in that stuff. Hellboy doesn't care as much. And the funny thing is, Hellboy turns up as Hellboy, and he doesn't get a second glance because he's basically a demon. Because he's in the land of witches, it's like, nah, who cares? It's like, you're not the strangest thing we've seen. So I mean, Hellboy wanders around this whole movie as Hellboy, and he doesn't get a second glance from most people. It's just like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's meant to be known to the general public at this point, but it's still fine as like they don't care. There's witches to deal with. Hellboy doesn't count. So they go to follow Tom to find his witch, and they find where she is, but she's just a skill left because she's traveling as a creature just now, and they have to wait till she comes back and back into her own skin before they can interrogate her. And at that point, the film starts to take off in the world of the different witches within this area. Tom's trying to find his father, who turns up, who's been cursed, and there's lots of sense of different layers of the witch curses and different dimensions to the curse. And there's a thing called the Crooked Man, who's the big demon of the area, who's controlling the witches, and basically what was used for a normal area is now turned into this area full of witches and scary people, and the Crooked Man convinces people to give up the soul, and he's trying to get his way back into hell with all the souls he takes to hell. So it's a weird, creepy idea, and Crooked Man's just a weird, creepy guy who's been there for centuries since the war, and he's manipulated everybody, and just this sense of this rotten environment. And so Hellboy has to go and defeat the Crooked Man to save the area and defeat the witches. And we find out Hellboy's mother was a witch, and he's unresolved things with his mother, who he's never met, and that plays into it. But it's more about the atmosphere of these different cursed people. This atmosphere of dread throughout the town. It's told. You get some chapter headings sometimes to tell you about this or this, and you get Tom's a talisman of this bone, which apparently represents his soul. And you have all these weird atmospheric things. There's a blind preacher in a church. There's a whole sequence in a church as well, where all the people who are buried who still had sins are used by the Crooked Man as zombies for him. You have all these weird ideas that floating through the film, all done really nicely, atmospheric. They don't overdo it. And then eventually when they have to go to Crooked Man's base, which is all these stones leading up this whole mountain to this house, this cursed house, where nothing quite feels sane. So all these wonderful things, fairy story, mythical things going on within this one story, all done really well on a low budget. It's really well done, and it's a big relief after the mess of the last Hellboy movie to see, oh, this is done. This is how you do this. This is confident. You can do this at lower budget, and allow for a lower budget, and it's fine. If they did more of these, I'd be very happy to watch them. If they just had same writer, same director, lower budget, you could do a lot with this. There's something there you can do, even a TV show like Netflix or something, you could do a lot with this and actually do something good if you just took some of the Hellboy stories and did them well. Because there's just a lot here. Jack Casey's Hellboy is a nice Hellboy. He's a younger Hellboy than Ron Perlman, but he's playing as a young Ron Perlman rather than trying to go where the last film went. It's like he understands what people liked about Hellboy from Del Toro films. Doesn't try and be it totally, but understand exactly the core of what people liked about it, and then sort of backtracks to the younger man and does that, and it works, and he's very swift-footed in the role. It's like, he's a good Hellboy. And the supporting cast, they don't have amazing dialogue or anything, but they all do their job well. Everything's nicely done. They shot in, I think, Bulgaria for the Appalachians in America. It's all very atmospheric. There's some cruel, nasty witches in here that are well done. And it's a sense of an area that's been destroyed by corruption, represented by the Crooked Man. Like, to get rid of the Crooked Man and all his demons would do a lot for the area. And it's just incredibly well put together. It's like, this is how you do a lower budget version of a fantasy character if you want to do it right and not spend a fortune the way some sequels do and ignore all the interesting thing and just go for effects. This one is like, we don't have money for effects, we'll do the interesting stuff, and then at the end we'll have a big blowout thing. And the blowout thing's the worst part. If they'd actually did less action, just more creepiness at the end, it'd probably work better. But I'm sure that was the kind of thing they had to do to get the money, which is a shame because it's a really well put together film. So yeah, Hellboy, The Crooked Man, I'd highly recommend. It's a return to form to the series. I hope they go further with this and actually keep going with this team, because obviously they've got a good grasp on what they're doing. And you could do a lot, a young Hellboy in the 60s, you could do a lot with that actually. You could give a lot of different stories that would be unique and intriguing. So, yep, go watch this, go support this one. It's well worth your time. Right, hope you enjoyed this video. Bye for now.